Hi, I'm Chef Gail Sokol and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're making a chocolate cake roll, and it is a sponge cake. It is a separated egg foam cake to be exact, and I'm making this for Jane, who reached out to me, as many of you have, and said, do you have a really good chocolate cake roll that I can do for, let's say, a Buche de Noels for the holidays, or an ice cream cake roll? It can be done for anything you want. You can even use it to cut into shapes or to cut into strips and line a springform pan and make it that much more special if you're making a cheesecake or something else. So it's super easy to do, and I'm going to give you all my tips for an egg foam cake or a sponge cake. And the special thing about this cake, it's gluten-free. So you people that are GF, this is for you. Okay, now the first thing I did was I preheated my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and I took a 16 by 11 sheet pan. I sprayed it with nonstick cooking spray. I put a sheet of parchment paper on it, and I have a little bit of an overhang on each side by about a ½ inch. I sprayed it again, and I dusted it with unsweetened cocoa powder, and I'm setting this aside. Now, in this corner, I have 6 egg whites separated. We're going to put them over here. We don't want them just yet. And in this corner, I have my 6 yolks. So I just took 6 eggs and separated them. All right, so we'll get to that in a second. In my bowl here, I have 1/3 cup of Dutch processed cocoa powder. And if you want to use regular natural cocoa powder, that's fine. Dutch processed just means that it's a little bit darker, richer in flavor, and it has the acidity removed from it. It's been Dutched, if you will. I'm going to add 1/4 cup of boiling water into this and a teaspoon of espresso powder, instant espresso powder, because I always think chocolate is enhanced in flavor with a little bit of coffee. If you want to leave it out, not a big deal. And I'm going to whisk this up. So again, it's going to be just your 1/4 cup of your unsweetened cocoa powder, your Dutched, 1/3 cup, little bit of espresso powder, 1/4 cup of that hot boiling water, and 2 tablespoons of unsweetened, unsalted butter that's sort of come to room temperature. Okay? And you're just going to whisk that in, and then you're just going to leave it on the side to cool down a little bit. All right, and you can feel, it should just feel barely warm. Sort of almost looks like a pudding, all right? The other thing I'm going to add into the chocolate is a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Just pour that in there. Just to give it a little flavor, all right? And that's the beginning of what we need to do to make our base part with our yolks. So we're going to be making a batter with our yolks and a meringue with our whites. So separated egg foam. Whites and yolks are separate. So I'm going to put that aside. So in here I have my 6 egg yolks, all right, and I have my whip attachment. Don't use your paddle. I hate several recipes in cookbooks. They never tell you what to use. Use your whip attachment in this case. All right. And I also have a ½ cup of granulated sugar. I'm putting that in there as well. And you're going to beat it. All right. Take your aggressions out on these yolks because you want to beat them until they're light in color and a little fluffy. So I'm going to turn it on warp speed and just let it go. All right? In the meantime, I never like to fold things in an electric mixing bowl. So if you have your meringue, you're going to fold it into your yolk batter. Get yourself a big bowl, and you're going to pour your yolk batter into the big bowl, because you always want the heavier batter on the bottom, and you always put light onto heavy. That's the way you maintain all the air and that foaminess in your meringue, because that's what's going to leaven your beautiful cake. So this is almost there, and I'm getting my pan ready. So I'm just going to leave that on the side. This is cooled down nicely. It's barely, probably just room temperature at this point. Cools down real quick. And you can see the yolks have turned from a deep yellow, almost an orange, the way yolks are, to a lighter pale yellow. All right, so I think we're there. They're not going to be fluffy. They're not going to be, they're just going to be sort of like a very, very pale yellow. Okay, you can see. All right. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to put this back on. I just wanted to show you what the consistency of that was. Don't be looking for like a meringue or anything like that at this point. On low speed, we're going to add our beautiful chocolate mixture with our cocoa, espresso, hot water, vanilla, and we're going to add all that into here. This is our base batter, our heavier batter, our yolk batter. Some sponge cakes are known as whole egg foams because they use the egg and the yolks all together. This one does not. A genoise is an instance for that. This is not one of those. This is a separated egg foam. And separated egg foams are, I think they're a lot more fun because you sort of get to fold. I like to fold things, and I don't mean the laundry. I mean like folding something really fun, like egg whites. My grandma taught me how to fold egg whites. So you know what I like to do. I like to, when it's in the electric mixer, you have to go around, make sure everything is homogeneously blended because you got that little bump on the bottom. Make sure it's homogeneously blended. And then you're going to pour it into your big bowl. Have a big bowl just for this purpose. It really makes a difference. All right, I'm going to get this in here, and then I'm going to get my whites ready to go. All right, it's time to make our egg foam or our meringue, same thing. So my 6 egg whites are here. Remember, not one drop of yolk should be in these or it won't beat up to its fullest volume. Whip attachment, clean and dried. The bowl needs to be really grease-free or it will not beat up. Again, something that is, unless you do it, you won't know what's happening, but it must mean that either the bowl wasn't clean, so make sure it's clean, dry, grease-free. All right, that's success for a meringue. Now I'm going to let her rip, and when it gets foamy, I'm going to put in 3/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. So I'm going to let it go till it's highest level. Wait till the egg whites are nice and foamy, and then you're going to add your cream of tartar, 3/4 teaspoon. Cream of tartar doesn't make a meringue more voluminous. It just stabilizes it so it doesn't fall as easily. That's all it does. It's really left over from the wine industry when wine is stored in these wooden casks. There was this powder that was tartaric acid, and it actually gets stuck on the side of the casks, and that's really the basis. It's made more in a kitchen chemistry way, but that's the basis of it. It's nice and foamy. I'm adding my cream of tartar. Do your thing, cream of tartar. And then when I get soft peaks, I'm going to show you what that looks like. We're going to gradually add 2 tablespoons and 2 teaspoons granulated sugar. And this only takes a short time. Meanwhile, in the wings, we have our batter in the big bowl, our yolk heavier batter, and it's raring to go. It's ready to go. All right, I'm going to show you. This is our soft peaks. You see that? Not firm peaks, they're soft. They look really nice and soft. But now we're going to put sugar in them. And very gradually, we're going to add this 2 tablespoons and 2 teaspoons. And we want stiff peaks now, unwavering peaks like a mountaintop. All right? You don't want to overbeat egg whites, but it's very hard to do when you add granulated sugar because the granulated sugar really helps prevent overbeating. So let me show you. Let's see if we can get unwavering peaks, baby. Straight up, that's what we want. We're there. We're there. So what we're going to do now, I hope there are some Trekkies out there because I love Star Trek. So this is what we're going to do. This is the best way to combine the darker batter or the heavier batter. In this case, it's dark because it's chocolate, but it's heavier, and the lighter batter, so the meringue. First thing we're going to do, we're going to use a whisk. Now, there's a lot of gazillion air bubbles in there. We don't want to lose them, but I'm going to take like a little dollop, maybe a third of the meringue in there, and I'm going to whisk them in. I'm actually going to lose. They're actually giving their air bubbles up for the rest of us. This is known as Chef Gail's Mr. Spock way of making a sponge cake. So, you know, he used to always say, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one. Well, in our case, it's the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. So we are going to give up those beautiful air bubbles in here to lighten our heavier batter. We're lightening it up, and this will make our sponge cake that much lovelier in texture. Now I'm going to use my rubber spatula, and I'm going to take the remainder of my egg foam, my meringue, my luscious meringue, and I'm going to fold this in. No more whisk, all right? No more whisk. And with one hand, you're going to turn the bowl. With the other hand, you're going to flip your rubber spatula from the middle, cut down and around. Keep going until you barely see any white streaks of meringue. All right? And this will lighten up that chocolate batter even more. And this will make this beautiful, beautiful gluten-free sponge cake that you can roll for your Buche de Noels, your Swiss chocolate roll, jelly roll. You could put jam in it. Wait till you see what we're going to do with it. We're going to have some fun with it as well. So keep going. If you see a streak, sometimes I just go gently through it, but you don't want to over manhandle this because you will lose. I just want to make sure I don't see too many streaks. Now you're going to get your pan, pull your pan over, and you see how lovely and poofy this is. Even if we see a few streaks, we're not going to get upset because, heavy bowl. We're going to pour this in. We don't want to overfold. Okay, so we're going to put this in here. And watch how I spread it out, because a sponge cake waits for no man. No chef. It won't even wait for Chef Gail, although I've tried. It will not wait. It's got to be put in the oven almost immediately. So you're going to take your offset spatula, and you're going to start spreading gently. And yes, I do see a few egg whites. Chef Gail does see those. So just gently push those. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We don't worry about it. I'd rather undermix slightly than get the loss of all those air bubbles. We need those air bubbles. Go into the corners. Go into the corners. All right. 350. We're leaving it in for 18 minutes, and it should feel slightly springy when you touch it. See you back. So it's been 18 minutes, and my cake looks beautiful. And if you see, it's nice and bouncy, just like a sponge cake should be. So I'm going to take a little cocoa powder, put it through my little sieve, and I'm just going to sieve over the surface. All right, very, very little bit. And then I'm going to cover it with a damp towel, and I'm going to let it cool like this. Okay? So I have a damp towel. It's not very, very wet, but it's a little damp, and it's clean kitchen towel, and I'm just going to put it over. All right? And I'm going to let it cool. So I took my clean kitchen towel off. Remember, we moistened it very, very lightly, and then we put it over a cocoa dusted cake as it came out of the oven. I removed it. I flipped it out onto a larger sheet pan with another clean piece of parchment paper and peeled off that bottom of where we actually put the cake into in that pan. So now I'm ready to roll. And you can see a little bit of the meringue that didn't blend in. You don't worry about it. Now I made some beautiful chocolate whipped cream, and I have a wonderful video on that. So this is a beautiful chocolate whipped cream, and I'm going to just start putting this down, sort of dollop it on in the middle area, and then we're going to spread it. And I have some fresh raspberries. You can use anything you want. You could put softened ice cream in this. You could just use plain whipped cream. You could use buttercream. Just go and do whatever you would like to do. Now I'm just going to spread. Oh, it's so good. Spread it. And then we're going to gently roll it up. And remember, this is gluten-free. Who gets this incredible dessert? Gluten-free. Yum. So when you tell your best friend, you know, yeah, you can have this. Yeah, you can eat this. Yeah. It's amazing. So I'm just going to spread this. And when you roll, you're going to roll it very, very gently because you don't want the whipped cream to ooze out. All right. All right, so I'm going to get my fresh raspberries that are gorgeous, and I'm just going to throw them out, sort of Jackson Pollock style. Just boop, boop, just all around. If you don't want to do raspberries, you could do plain whipped cream with mini chocolate chips or shaved chocolate. All right, anything you want. And anything goes. You can even use jam, jelly. That's where the name Jelly Roll came from, usually with a vanilla cake, but it could be chocolate as well. Raspberry jam would be good here too. I'm just going to dollop them all on. Boop. Okay, ran out. Now you're going to use this parchment, and you're going to use this as a way to gently roll. All right? So as you're rolling, you're going to gently pull away. Remember, this is not too dark. This is the cocoa powder. And you're just going to roll it. Just let the parchment do the work, baby. All right, you see what I'm doing? Just make sure you keep it straight. Pull back. Pull back. Oh, it's gorgeous. I'm going to pull back. Okay, and just let it go. Okay. So now we have this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful cake roll filled with chocolate whipped cream and raspberries. I have my serving platter. And what I'm going to do now, because I want to put ganache over the top, you don't have to. You could just put a little, you know, if you wanted to just sprinkle a little, dust a little confectionery sugar. But you want to cut the ends off in a diagonal. And the ends that you cut off are for the chef. They are not for anybody else but the chef. We're going to move that over. All right. I'm going to move it around, turn it around. I'm going to move this over here. All right. I'm going to cut it on a diagonal with a very, very sharp knife. And then I'm going to move it. You can see the raspberries inside and the cake. So good. And I'm going to take my serving platter. And what I like to do is sometimes I just try to manhandle it gently. And just go like you're lifting a baby. Sometimes it comes up nicely and sometimes it doesn't. So I'm just gonna, you know what I'm gonna do? It's big. The baby's big. I'm going to move the baby. And ooh, I'm going to roll the baby over. Okay. I'm going to move it over. Okay. I'm going to quickly wash my hands. And then I'm going to ganache it. This sponge cake is so spongy because there's no flour in it. That's why it is very, very delicate. So I'm going to you can spread it on. There's a little offset for that. And it will come out differently every time because depending on how it rolls, depending on how much cream you put on, it will. This almost looks like a little Buche de Noels. Christmas log. But not for Christmas. But it could be. Could be anything you want. A little more. And I have great recipes on my YouTube for fabulous ganache and how to make it. And if you go to my website, you can see fabulous recipes as well. So I'm going to just spread this. And then you'd want to chill this until the ganache got firm. And then with a very, very sharp knife, cut through. All right. But I would leave this open so you can actually see what's inside your lug. Again, depending on how many swirls you get and how many times you can turn your cake to get as many swirls in it as you can. It depends. I had a lot of whipped cream in mine, so I couldn't get as many swirls. And you could put some more raspberries on top. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to dust. And it is so delicate. There are some cake rolls that are actually a little bit more sturdy. This one, because it has no ganache, I'm just going to wipe off. You can see how pretty that is. It's beautiful. It is yummy. So I do hope you try this cake roll. And Jane, I hope you enjoy this recipe as I do. I hope all of you enjoy it and make it as well. And remember, it is gluten-free. So I hope you become a subscriber. Till next time.